Hey guys, today I want to teach you about the three most common types of questions in strings 2. So we're going to go over three types. The first one, we're going to be building a string. Second one, we will be counting occurrences of a substring in a string. And the third one is we're going to be looking for something and returning true if we find it and false if we don't. So let's start with this string builder type 1. So it's a fairly simple question. We're given a string and we want to return the same string but with every character doubled. So if they give us the, instead of giving one T, we have two T's. Instead of one H, we've got two H's. Instead of one E, we have two E's. And so on and so forth. Hopefully you get the gist. All right, let's code it up. So we are creating a string. So the first thing we're going to need is an empty string variable to add to. So we'll start off with string, result or whatever, you can call it whatever you want, and it's going to be empty. And then like pretty much every question in this, we're going to need a for loop. So we'll just do our usual int I equals 0, I is less than the string's length, I++, so we go through one character at a time. I'm going to use char at, just because you will need it for the exam, or not the exam, this test you're going to have in this unit, so just as an example. So here we are, we want to add each character in turn to the result twice. So I'm going to say result plus equals string.char at I, that gives me the ith character, the character at index I, plus string.char at I. By the way, I've intentionally inserted an error into this. If any of you have seen it, congratulations. I just want to show you what will happen if we try and do it just like this. We'll need to make us one small fix. We create our empty string, we loop through that string and add each character in turn twice. We got one little issue right here because we're adding a char to a char, and so we should get a bunch of numbers. So if you go and check our results here, you notice everything is a bunch of numbers. You're like, hey, there's no numbers in it, where did they come from? Remember, characters are represented by numbers in the background. So, if it sees a character plus a character, it assumes like, oh, you want to add the numbers that represent the character. And so that's where we got all our numbers from. Now, there's a couple of different ways we can fix this. One easy way to fix this is adding an empty string. So if we had an empty string before, we have a string plus a character. String beats character, so the result is a string, and then the result of these two added together gets added to that. So then again, this together is a string, plus a character is again a string. So if we go here, you will see we get them all right. There's other ways we could deal with this. If you did substring, you wouldn't have to worry about this, but I want to do string. I could also say result equals result plus string.char at I plus string.char at I. And the reason that works is because result is a string and it gets added to the char. It's basically the same as the previous example, except the string plus char happens before the char plus char. And so everything works as we want it to. Anyway, that is string builder. Create your empty string, loop through your original string, and do whatever you need to do to build your string, and then return your result at the end. Next example, we will do counting. So in this guy, we're going to count every time we see hi, the word hi in a bigger string. So you're going to need an integer to hold how many times we've seen that word. So I'm just going to call it count and say int count, and I've seen high 0 times before I look through my string. So I'm going to start it at 0. I'm going to do again my standard loop with one little switch. I'm going to start my indexing variable at 0. Now if I'm looking for the word high, I'm going to need to use substring, and I'm going to be looking at 2 characters at a time. So the thing at index I, which I'm looking to see if that's an H, and the thing at index I plus 1, which I'm looking to see is an I. I plus 1 will go off the edge of my array first, so I want to check that I plus 1 is less than the string's length, because that means that I never go outside of my string and get an error, an array index out of bounds error. So if I do I plus 1, because remember I'm always looking at I and I plus 1, that's going to be less than the string's length, so it doesn't go off the edge. And then I plus plus, so standard for loop, and then all I got to do is if I see the word high, so I'm going to have to do a little substring using the index. Remember, if you're using substring with 2 numbers, the first number you give it is the first index you want, and the second number you give it is the first index you don't want. We want I and I plus 1, so the first index I don't want is I plus 2. Now if that equals, remember we need to use dot equals, the word high, we're going to increase our count. And then at the end of it all, we'll just return our count. And that's all we got to do. So again, just a quick review. We created a variable to count how many times we've seen the word. Important step. We loop through it, making sure that the last index of our substring never goes off the edge of our string, because that would give us an error. And then if we see what we're looking for, we increase our count by 1. And then we just, after our for loop is done, after we've counted them all up, we return our count. So if we go do this, we should have them all. So counting ones usually aren't too bad. And now for our last example. Our last example is Bob there. So this one, we just want to basically look through the string and see if we see the word Bob, but the middle character can be whatever the heck we want. So it doesn't have to be Bob exactly, it just has to be a B and then any character and then a B. And so that's it. With any of these immediately return true or return true or false questions, if you're looking for a situation, look for the situation where you can immediately return an answer. In this case, we're like, hey, is there a Bob in the string? If we see the situation we're looking for, we can immediately return true. We don't have to check the rest of the string. And then if we get through the entire string and we never saw it, then we will return false. So always make your if statement trigger on the situation where you can immediately return an answer. So let's do it. So we don't need any helping variables. We can just go straight to the for loop. We're going to have to check 3 characters. So we're always going to have to look at index I plus 1, and I plus 2. Really just I and I plus 2. And I plus 2 will go off the edge of our string first. So we got to check that that is always less than our string.length. And then go up by 1 each time. And then if we see our situation, I'm just going to use char at, because I like to, and you guys are pretty good at substring anyway. So if the one at I is equal to a B, keep in mind you need to use single quotes for characters, double quotes for strings. That may come up on your test, you never know. Single quotes for characters, double quotes for strings. So the first character has to be a B, and the the character 2 over from that also has to be a b. So at I plus 2. So if we see that situation we're looking for, we'll just straight return true. It ends our function right away. And if we never get through a for loop and we never saw it at all, we could just return false. So again, trick to these guys, make sure you never go off the edge of your string, and think through your situation and make sure you immediately return true or false on the situation where you can immediately return true or false, and then if you get through your for loop without hitting that situation, return the other one. Thanks for listening. Keep on.